Right, we're on now, okay? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Amelia.
I felt like that I was questioning myself, saying, why am I so slow? Why is this not working? Why is my brain not functioning?
And I feel anxious, and a lot of days are ruined because I just feel anxious or stressed because something's not going to plan, and then this leads to me having my tics.
It was a bit hard to realise that I'm different to other people. Like, I'm not the same as my best friend.
I have autism and it makes me feel different.
We had a really, really difficult first few months with Clara, and I think it was really, really clear, like there was differences almost like from the moment she was born.
But I didn't know the signs, I didn't know any of that. And anybody who tried to suggest it to me, I just thought, no, he's just a very active child.
The health visitor and obviously the midwife, and we were really quickly under the paediatrician. All knew there was something, but no one really knew what.
There was a few times at parents' evening we'd raised a few concerns, but they were never big enough, I don't think, to be obvious, never caused any problems in school.
His dad had started chemo actually the same day that my son started school. And then, you know, when his dad did die, which was within 11 weeks, his behaviour changed drastically in school. He was hiding under desks a lot. He was thrashing and kicking out, really struggling, massively struggling.
He struggles to understand certain instructions. He struggles to get his words out.
At home, very much hyperactivity, and at school, huge amount of masking.
But it was that transition to secondary school that became really difficult for her. In the September she started, and by December, I think the bottom had literally fallen out of our world.
We were having situations where we're driving to school and she's trying to climb out the car. Obviously, I've got child locks on, so she's jumping in the front of the car to get out the driver's door whilst I'm trying to drive.
Her teacher would say to me, she's got lots of friends. She had, but if you sat back and actually thought about that, she had lots of people that she spoke to, but those friendships were never, there was never any depth.
On her last day at primary school, you know, all the kids, there was the assembly for the kids and the parents, and Poppy just didn't get involved. She was just isolated. She was on her own. She didn't want to join in. She didn't feel that she wanted to join in. It was only until that last day when we were there at school seeing what it was really like for her that we were just like, oh my God, we've got to do something. We can't carry on. I felt I'd let her down.
Our whole life really became about how we're going to get our children into school, how we're going to keep them in school.
And it almost felt like the school were interviewing us to figure out whether or not we were naughty parents, if that made sense. Like the first thing, I think that their default wasn't to think that there was something like, how could we help the child? It felt more like an interview of the parents.
Everything was put down to trauma in primary school and not acknowledged that she had special educational needs other than trauma.
When she started her primary school journey, it was, these are her needs, these are how we're going to solve these problems, these are how we're going to help her through, this is how we're going to support her. And that just phases out.
It's lack of training. I don't think teachers have enough SEND training at all, and that is nothing negative on teachers. They've got enough to do.
There was only one teacher and there was like 24 of us in the class. So it's like hard for me to only get help when there's only one teacher.
Those people who are in charge of our children, of guiding them and supporting them, if they don't have the support, that there's just no hope in hell.
in primary school, I enjoyed having a really small class and being able to know everyone and being in the same class every day, all day.
Why don't you go to your school?
It's too
Why is it too hard?
to be out.
So in school, our daughters have really struggled, and as a consequence, neither of them attend school anymore.
The more we pushed her to be in school, the more she couldn't attend. The more we pushed her to be there, the more she just couldn't. We were seeing really extreme behaviours, lots of violence.
We were being told school's the best place for her, we need to overcome these fears, really try and encourage her to work through that, which makes absolute perfect sense. But when you're in that situation and your 11-year-old is lying on the floor and you literally just don't know what's happening, that's easier said than done.
So it then became to a point where we had to say, enough is enough. But that's then left us with no school for a year. For us, my daughters really missed that. But I'm homeschooling Gracie all day, every day. That's now taking over. And when I'm not homeschooling her, I'm doing paperwork, begging for a school. We are constantly asking for an alternate provision. We are constantly asking for a school.
I would love to say that filling in forms and getting a diagnosis is a simple process, but it's not. It's a full-time job and some more. So I'd given up work at that point because this became all-consuming.
There's so many tick boxes and hoops you have to jump through, and evidence you have to provide.
The parent is left to try and navigate what to put, how to write the letter, what should go in there, looking at tribunals, which is a whole world that most people don't want to go into, the legal side of things.
And at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, we would be researching the SEND Code of Practice. We would be emailing, we would be putting in complaints, we would be filling out the application forms. Like you talking, like the forms itself are like enough to put you off an application, to be honest with you.
You've got to be able to really dig deep into policy and to legislation to be able to go back and to fight for what your child needs. There's forms, and then there's some more forms, and then there's some more forms, and then there's weights, and there's some more weights.
We're on the process of the ADHD testing.
We've got lost off waiting lists. We thought we were on a waiting list for a year, and it turns out we weren't even on the waiting list.
If you haven't got an EHCP or you haven't got that SSPP that is bringing in funds to pay for things, schools just don't have that flexibility to do that.
To navigate the system, it's a very lonely place at times because you don't know where to go, who to turn to.
It's been such a long road to get to know for sure. And even then, you know, I've doubted myself throughout that it is me being an absolutely useless, rotten parent.
Whilst we wanted to keep this outward exterior of like positivity and keeping like working with the school, you know, inside it was ripping us apart really.
The impact on families, the impact on parents' well-beings and their mental health, but also while all this is going on, you've got children at the heart of this that get no support at all, or they get the bare minimum that a school can afford. I was asked recently what to describe the whole process in one word, and I used the word traumatic.
My name's Luke Clements. I'm the Professor of Law and Social Justice at the School of Law at Leeds. I run a research unit that's funded by a disabled children's charity called Cerebra, and we're very interested, and all our work is focused on commonly occurring problems that parents, particularly parents with disabled children, experience. What parents are telling us is, yeah, they've had traumatic experiences, but the most traumatic experience they've had is dealing with the system, dealing with approaching local authorities for help, or seeking a special education needs support, or going to an A&E. And those are seriously traumatic. People describe that in terms of being suicidal. People describe it in terms of losing their careers. people describe it in the most traumatic way.
It's really important that we take a step back and look at how we make mainstream schools inclusive. And a lot of that, sadly, is funding.
I think you lose yourself. You're so immersed in trying to meet the needs of that young person, which you prioritise as a parent, don't you? You'll do anything for.
Everybody thinks I'm just an absolutely disastrous parent, that I don't have any control over my child, that if only I did this and if only I did that.
You know, my physical health was taking an impact and my mental health was taking an impact.
Sorry, were just really tough. It was just, it was really tough, and it comes so quickly out of nowhere that it was just a horrible place to be because we just didn't know how to help her.
He has asked us in the past, which is heartbreaking as a parent to hear, why can't I be a normal child? And it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Sometimes you just feel that you are on your own and you don't know where to go, where else is going to offer support. How do I get support?
We are struggling. We're really, really struggling mentally, physically, emotionally. And if I cannot get the right support to be able to support my son, I just... I don't know what's going to become of us, and I'm very scared for my son's future. The parents are expected to do so much, and our capacity to do that is dwindling. It's really dwindling because we're not supported to do that.
If I had sort of two things to say, is first, think that this person may actually be neurodivergent and therefore your system needs to adjust to accommodate that. And second, just be kind. Just be kind to people and accept them for what they are and trust them, that they're not making these things up. You know, the vast majority of the population is sincere, decent people. And life is a lot nicer if you create, insofar as you can, kind systems.